Welcome to the Off-World UFO Report. In episode 11, we're going to examine the evidence of UAP flying around the International Space Station, as well as space shuttles and SpaceX rockets. This has been happening for many years, and there's so much evidence, it's almost undeniable. But first, we have to look at the normal views that are recorded by the International Space Station so that we can contrast and compare what we're seeing that could be unidentified. First, there are a lot of lights and reflections and bokeh, like you're seeing right here. There's also lightning storms, flashes, like we just saw, and it can be confusing. Also, there are stars in the background, but they follow a straight trajectory. So I'm going to show you in turn all of these things, and then we're going to watch certain objects that fly together and change direction that are potentially UAP. Got lots of good views of Italy and Greece and Egypt below the Suez Canal. So this one you see a little light flying quickly across the screen in orbit, and then it slows down and hovers for a while. This is speeded up ×2, and then it oscillates and goes up, and then rapidly increases speed and heads across the horizon. Just to see that again at triple speed, the same movement. This is not a satellite, and we don't have anything that flies that fast from a standing hover. Here we have about a dozen objects, a little more. After this clip was posted on Reddit, certain users said that these were actually fishermen in the ocean using super bright lights to attract fish. Take a look at the description of this situation. And for this reason, you have to be skeptical and wait until a lot of other people bring information in order to make the best conclusion. This camera has actually been a huge source of confusion because sometimes it's aimed at the Earth or at the Earth's curvature, and other times it seems to be aimed out at space. We'll get more into that in a little bit. Here we're seeing Earth's curvature with the sun coming around as many orbs, some blinking and some bright, fly by at high speeds. That was in 2020. Here we have a little object flying through the aurora borealis, and what's notable about this is that the stars are all going one way and this little thing goes the other, and it's not in orbit, it's leaving the Earth's orbit to parts unknown. This shows the curvature of the Earth at night with several lightning storms happening. But those lightning storms reappear in that problematic camera that we mentioned earlier. Here we got the solar panels moving around as we see the space station, and then suddenly there's a little guy flying through there. Check it out. He's moving super fast. And again, That does not seem to be an object in orbit or space junk. And the same here. This orb that changes direction, taking a long curve now as it heads towards the cloud layer of the Earth. I'd like to hear if anybody has any alternative hypotheses on what this could be. It's the direction changes pretty much rule out orbital objects, satellites, bokeh, and other hypotheses that people often put forward. And these are repeatedly seen around the ISS and other objects up in space that have cameras, as we'll see. Next, we're going to take a look at something that almost collided with a SpaceX rocket. So check it out.
We're going to move on now to that mysterious close encounter. This object you see here was caught on camera flying past the SpaceX rocket just minutes after liftoff last week. Transportation correspondent Gio Benitez is tracking the story. Good morning, Gio.
Hey, George, good morning. Yeah, the internet lighting up with questions over this video. Did the object come from the rocket or from somewhere else? This morning, some possible answers. This morning, a potential close call caught on camera. A mysterious object captured on tape flying very close to the SpaceX Crew Dragon with 4 astronauts on board.
Mission and liftoff.
Take a look at this video. Just 12 minutes after the astronauts left planet Earth Friday morning, part of the Falcon 9 rocket separates from the Dragon. That's when some kind of object flies between the two. Take a closer look in slow motion. But what exactly was that object seen early in the flight? Sources telling us it appears to be ice from the liquid oxygen in that rocket. But this morning, no official confirmation on what it was.
The thing that makes me think that that is just most likely a piece of ice is that it happened right at the time where they were inserted into orbit.
Lots of hugs and smiles right now.
In the end, the astronauts arriving safely at the International Space Station over the weekend to begin their 6 months of research. And back here live at the Intrepid Museum in New York, we've got the Space Shuttle Enterprise right behind me. This actually played a huge role in understanding ice buildup during the shuttle days. Now this video may do the same, and SpaceX will likely look at it frame by frame.
Sounds good. All right, Gio, thank you.
So let's take a closer look at this, because there's something that they didn't notice, and it's on the right there. In slow motion, zooming in, we can see that same oblong object with the strange trajectory and the wiggle in its movement comes from far away from the rocket. I fail to understand how ice could make that kind of a move. But hey, I'm not an astronaut. I'm just an observer. SpaceX has had these problems before. Another time, a fast-moving object buzzed the rocket. I don't think that was ice, or a bird, or a satellite. If it did, it's a pretty risky situation for SpaceX. But then there's this situation when the rocket Falcon 9 was stationary at Cape Canaveral. This is a controlled airspace, and a extremely fast-moving object. You'll see its trajectory, which is just unbelievable. It's going so fast that it actually appears twice in the film. You see it makes like 3 turns. 1, 2, 3, and it does this barrel roll right by the rocket. Amazing. And it's a triangle shape. Just shocking speed. Is not anything that is of this earth. It was definitely not man-made. It's not a dragonfly. They only fly 35 miles an hour. It's not a hummingbird. It's large, triangular, and intelligently controlled. Sometimes I wonder if these events don't make the news because there's no good explanation, even a stupid one like ice. Why didn't we hear about this more? The next set of videos I'm going to play come from that problematic camera with the red dots that are said to be burnt pixels. This camera has many times been responsible for sightings where people thought there was some kind of strange looking unidentified objects. It's hard to know one way or the other, but if you compare footage, you start to see a pattern. So let's take a look. Alright, this is the normal interface that you see on YouTube. And you just saw lightning, and now you're seeing some objects that seem to be in front of the stars. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think we're actually looking at the Earth, and we're seeing lights from settlements in Saudi Arabia. But it looks like we're looking directly into space. Here's another of the same situation. You see the curvature of the Earth right there, the blue line. The sun is coming around, and we're seeing these lights overlaid against burnt pixels that look like stars. This is really confusing, and it's caused a lot of people on the internet to say this is a sighting of an armada from a distant star. I don't think that's what's happening, but there are some videos that really raise questions about what the hell we're looking at. I think people can be forgiven for trying to figure out what this is and not thinking that this is just the lights on Earth, because they don't look like the lights on Earth, and they don't seem to have a curvature. Like, the trajectory doesn't seem right. Here you see more of this from a different angle and perspective, and I mean, it doesn't really make sense that these would be flying objects because they seem so abstract looking, but they also don't really look much like cities or fishing boats. So yeah, these kinds of videos have showed up on a lot of UFO YouTuber channels. For example, Mavi777 has broadcast these a few times. I don't think that these are constellations of asteroids. Here we got the storms. People hypothesized that these were objects with a cloaking device. So this video was probably seen by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, because of these lights and their appearance of depth. This one to me is the most convincing as far as a apparent UFO squadron. For a long time, I thought that that was what this was. Now I tend to think that it is Indonesia, maybe, or fishing boats, could be. It's really hard to say. Reasonable people can disagree. I don't think it's cut and dried. I think that UFO squadrons do exist. We've seen them in a lot of videos that weren't Chinese lanterns or drones, or if you saw my last video, flares. Here's another look at the same thing. It's certainly fun to think that these might be, 100, 200 UFOs coming to Earth to live in the sea. And it's not hard to believe. I mean, they had to come from somewhere, right? There's a lot of talk about whether it might be from inside the Earth or another dimension or time travelers. And we really don't know. So, I'm not trying to say that I know better than other people, and I don't think that everybody has to agree. That's one thing that I don't understand on Reddit. People get so bent out of shape when you disagree with them. I think it is totally fucking stupid, but that's how people are. So, let me know what you think it is, and explain why. I really love watching ISS feeds. Sometimes it kind of scares me because it makes you feel small, but it's really spectacular, the views, trying to figure out what you're looking at, where you're looking at. I think this is Europe with cloudy skies and thunderstorms. These videos were made in April 2020 by a YouTuber named Gordon McKenna, misspelled with an E at the end, Gordon. There were 10 of them at least. But if you actually hang on till this last part, you see a really clear lightning flash right here. Watch. Boom, lightning flash. I think we got our answer. But sometimes it's worth it to watch a little bit longer. Wow, you see that blue line over there? I never noticed that before. On the right, big long blue line. It's funny because there's no other ones. So this group of lights was publicized as UFOs, and we don't see any stars in the background, so maybe it is fishing boats. We're obligated to try our best to debunk the videos that we choose to share, because other people will, and if we resist, we lose credibility. But I also think that debate is really healthy. So here's one that I made in 2020, and I thought it was interesting. A little coagulation of things together. There's a lot of blinking and burnt pixels, as they have been called. It's just kind of a crappy camera. I don't know why they keep it around, but they do. Maybe somebody should send ISS a new one. They're probably really expensive. Maybe Elon Musk should buy one. He's launching stuff up there Come on, Elon, get in the game. So this one I also shot back in 2020, and it's pretty cool looking. It's a big light. This video was shared on YouTube by Mr. MBB333. It's of an astronaut on a spacewalk. This is actually a common view. You also often see the gloves because they're wearing the camera on their chest or something like that. Sometimes it's floating around, getting knocked around by the astronaut. But there's a UFO that flies around in the background. You can barely see it. You just saw it flit by there. I'm gonna show it to you in more depth. This movement by the astronaut with his glove actually caused Mr. MBB333 to say that the astronaut was hiding the UFO, which is good for the title of your YouTube video, but obviously not true. But there's some kind of light doing zigzags out there. So debunkers, please go to work. What was this? Was this an asteroid that was hit by another asteroid, perhaps? Or was this ice? It's definitely exhibiting some of the 5 observables: the low visibility, sudden acceleration without a signature. It's traveling in space, so transmedium. And we typically see these in the other videos. You've seen them. And there's a video coming up where there are a lot of these kinds of low visibility objects flying very quickly. So let's check it out. So this next video was shared by Mary Hall, and then shared again by Mr. MBB333. Mary Hall has a lot of videos from ISS. That seems to be her main gig. So check it out. There are a lot of objects flying around here, flying in all directions, flying at different speeds. Some are moving what seems to be potentially hypersonic velocity. They disappear, reappear, blink. It's hard to explain, but of course I'm always open to more complicated explanations. It's ice. It's not something that we made. It's not space junk. It's not asteroids. That one over there seems to be changing direction just slightly. But changing direction is always helpful because it rules out a lot of alternative explanations. So these videos are of a large streak of light or a really skinny disk. I'm not ruling out bokeh, but sometimes when you're looking at the ISS feeds, you see more than one glare, reflection, or light distortion. So the one on the far right seems to have multiple glare effects. But when you just have one solitary light alone on the video, it makes you wonder what that is, especially if it moves around. It's blue. I don't know. I wish these people would learn how to use Vimeo, because cameras on your screen is not very good for us, but thank you. The next video is an old one that has some cool audio, so check it out.
Copy that. 797 here, you want your 8? Left clear, 7, go ahead. Confirm you at 10 o'clock high. This is Houston, say again, 7? Now, confirm you at 10 o'clock high. We have an unidentified flying object. All advised.
I'm Richard Southern. Happy Friday. What's lurking up there in the sky? Here's a really interesting story. A Russian cosmonaut who is currently up there on the International Space Station right now has suggested he may have filmed a UFO in orbit. I want to show you the video he posted. This happened when he was filming the Aurora Borealis. He was doing a time lapse. Just into the time lapse, there's a few objects that appear. We're going to freeze it for you so you can get a good look at it. 5 objects appear flying alongside each other with the same distance in between them. Ivan Wagner, the cosmonaut in question, tweeted, quote, "What do you think these are? Meteorites, satellites, or ... He suggested they may have been, quote, space guests. Whatever they were obviously arranged in a clear, angled line. The cosmonaut says he sent his video to the authorities in Russia for further evaluation. All right, meantime, this may be the greatest news you've heard all weekend if you enjoy a tipple on a Friday night. Scientists think they found a hangover cure.
I don't know about you, but a hangover cure is definitely more important than the discovery of life in space. So yeah, look at these things following the space station, doing all kinds of cool moves. It really looks like they fly just for fun. You know, their playful flying style is definitely a sign of intelligence. These could be living things. So this next one is a strange diamond-shaped thing that was following around the space station similarly as the ones we just saw. And then it goes up into space. But again, these presences in orbit go way back. So the STS-48A shuttle mission in 1991 captured 2 objects, one of which swiftly changed direction after a flash, which was followed by some kind of apparent energy pulse that certainly seemed like a weapon. At least these objects seem to perceive it as such. But if you look at a report on this event, and it was found that the 2 objects changed their courses to a highly curved trajectory, which ruled out the explanation of shuttle debris, according to this report. The researchers concluded that these objects were self-propelled. The author concluded that the flash and that pulse of energy was from the shuttle thrusters, and that the course change was due to that thruster. Very interesting.
Thank you. There's a lot of people swimming around out here.
I'll bet. And we know.
NASA transmissions always seem to be cut at inopportune moments, but just before that cut, the technicians talk about a lot of people swimming around out here, which is curious, but it shows that these events go way back. This looks like it was from the late 90s, this video. So, as long as we've been up in space, we've been seeing these blinking orbs and objects.
Atlantis back with you, Tater C's.
And all the coded language used by NASA engineers and technicians can't disguise the fact that this is an old phenomenon and we still don't know what to think about it. But we need to get used to not being the top predator on the food chain, because the technology that we're witnessing is far superior to our own, and there might be many different groups that are visiting the Earth. Check out next time. I'm gonna do a deep dive into volcano Popocatépetl, which you see here, because there's a great mystery that needs to be solved. Thanks for tuning in to the Off-World UFO Report.